So I wanted to record the writing workshop that I was going to be doing. I was supposed to do a presentation at our Relief Society meeting, excuse me, in March. And so I thought this might be helpful to everyone while they're at home. And so here we go. So I have attached a PDF for you to download that has a nice little outline. And I'm only going to cover a few things because there's no way to cover all of writing or an introduction to writing in 15 minutes. So I'm just going to cover a few things that might be applicable to you in your everyday life. So one of the first types of writing is nonfiction. And one of the most useful types of nonfiction writing is journaling. And there are different kinds of journaling. So there's a family journal, and there are different kinds of family journals. So I have one like this that talks about family travels, cute things the kids said. Now we're adding grandbabies. So this is just kind of a family record. And it's really important to make sure you've dated it. There are also, anything happening in the family or family history, holidays, trips, vacations, individual events and accomplishments. And just make sure you have a date for each entry. I also have this one. I couldn't find the other one because we still have stuff in boxes of that my mother had given us, each of us kids, a long time ago. So we decided to quit exchanging gifts because people just weren't really into it among my siblings. And my mom talked to us all about, each of us could do a family letter or send in pictures. And she put together a family newsletter. And so in the family newsletter, it would be pictures, genealogy information, and maybe a letter from those who decided to participate and send in a family letter of what they went through during the year. So this is another great family journaling resource, kind of make it like an extended family scrapbook. And this, so each year that was our Christmas present to each other, is that we would send in things, and then my mom would compile it and send each of us the pages, whether it was 5 pages or 20 pages. That was our gift each year. So the other kind of a journal is a personal journal. Many of us have had various kinds of personal journals. They have the pages inside and with lines or unlined. And this is where you put your own personal experiences that you want to share with future generations. Some people put everything in there. I no longer do that. That's something I did as an adolescent or as a child. Right now, I try to put things like general conference, what I got from each talk in general conference and the questions I had from that, personal questions or queries or curiosities, experiences, and but I don't put therapy in my personal journal anymore. That I save for a separate journal. So I have a separate, what I call the deep dark, woe is me journal, and that I may burn. My kids may never see it, but then again, they're going to have afflictions and challenges too, and maybe if they know how I moved through it, it will help them. So I don't know yet. I'm just going to wait for the Spirit to guide me on whether I should burn it or not. So I also have something called an abundant journal. It's this really nice leather-bound journal. I don't have it with me at this moment. And this is where I put the really great blessings or abundance, or where I see the Lord's hand in my life, or where It's not a gratitude journal. It's where I show abundance. I write examples of abundance and how I feel the flow, how I feel connected, where the flow and ease is showing up. Books I've read, learned, positive experiences. What did my support system do to strengthen me? And how am I being supported? Anything lovely or of good report? Anything about flourishing. So that goes into the abundance journal. And everybody knows about a gratitude journal, but I put up on every so many pages, I put up one of 3 phrases to help give me a prompt and encourage me to list 3 things, because the research shows that doing 3 things is really good at helping your brain rewire. What went well is one of the questions I have. 3 blessings, and I am grateful for ... So those are the things I put in my gratitude journal to encourage me to, I actually have it. I do have it. This is my gratitude journal. So I do have it listed. And then the 3 things, ... what went well. And so that's gratitude journal. A bullet journal is something new I just learned about. You can Google it. There are also classes usually at the library or on the library website that I've noticed lately. Sorry, I'm having a hair issue. This is more of a system to keep track of past, organize present, and plan future. It is a very systematic thing. Where you have an index and it sends you to a page and you have recorded. So it's more of a planner. In the notebook, create an index. Each entry will be numbered. Create a page and description heading. And then you make a future log by dividing the page into 3 sections with month, name as heading of each section. Do 6 months at a time. So you're creating a planner for 6 months at a time with this bullet journal. And you're going to create a monthly log, and then a weekly log, and then a daily log. So you can personalize it according to what you want. And a lot of adolescents are finding that this is very helpful, especially with high school and college. So those are things you can look up online and find more information about, or go to the local library. Several librarians may know about bullet journaling, and there's also classes often being taught, hopefully online, because more and more libraries are doing many of their programs online because they can't meet in person. So the next kind of journal is a healing journal. And I've got something like this. So like if you're going to therapy, or if you are dealing with several issues and you're going to doctors, you're going to write down what the doctor tells you or the protocol you're on. And you can write down, some people find it helpful to do a food journal to keep track of what they've eaten. Do medication journals, keep track of medication or supplements, or exercise, or keeping track of things you've learned. Maybe every time you go to the doctor, you learn something new and you want to research it. So this, you put your research in your medical journal, and you can have one for different things. Maybe you have a digestive issue and you have some other autoimmune issue, and so you have 2 separate medical journals because you're seeing 2 different medical professionals for that. Or they can be grouped together. It's all according to what you want. You also can include exercises of any nature, your progress, instructions, food, symptoms, appointment reminders can go into your medical journal, or your healing journaling. There's lots of different kinds of ways to do healing journaling. As part of this, you may need to have a folder for handouts, copies, instructions, bill receipts. And another thing that you can put in your healing journal, your medical journal, is your frustrations. Yes, they're there. And questions that you have for your medical professionals, because sometimes you forget them when you go into your appointment. And if you have your journal with you, because I take mine in with me, then I can look up to the page and say, yep, this is the question I had, because I wrote it down. So that's that. Then there is something called therapeutic journaling. And there's a process called expressive writing. Expressive writing is a very descriptive kind of writing that anybody can do at any time, but you usually set aside 4 consecutive days, 20 minutes, preferably the same time each day, to write. And you just write. You write about issues, conflicts, stressors, or upheavals that are keeping you up at night. This can be past or present. If a trauma is recent, let's see, and you can write continuously once you begin. You need to write continuously, 20 minutes, don't stop. If you can't think of anything to write, then you write, I can't think of anything to write. But you just write continuously for 20 minutes about these issues that you are dealing with. I am stressed, if you can't think of anything else. But usually as you start to write about how you are feeling, what's going through your head, think of it as kind of emptying your head. You may write more than 20 minutes, but at least 20 minutes. Let's set a timer for 20 minutes. You can go past the 20 minutes. If you end up writing for 2 hours, great. But if you can't really think of anything, then force yourself to at least put words on paper, even if it just is words on paper that you're writing. And then really let go. Deepest thoughts and feelings around an issue. You can write about the same topic every day or different topics on the different days, because you're doing 4 days, and explore an event that ties to aspects of your life: childhood, people loved, fear, or when you felt angry, work, friends, and family. On your final day of writing, reflect on what you've what you've been vomiting out or whatever over the previous 3 days. How can the story you constructed help guide your thoughts and behaviors? So on the 4th day, you are observing the writing of the 3 days before and asking yourself how can the story you constructed help guide your thoughts and behaviors? Because we all create a story every day. This is a tool always available to you, and it is not a replacement for medical or psychological professional help. So, the mail truck is here, and it's not for me because I didn't get anything. So the next thing I want to go down to, I didn't talk about all of, if you have any questions on anything on this outline that I send, please feel free to reach out. You can email me and ask your question, or text me or call, whatever works for you. So, because I also have something called Morning Minutes, which is more for my personal writing, and it's where I do free writing, or if I have ideas for a writing project, I put it in what I call Morning Minutes. Free writing is at least 10 minutes. It's similar to the therapeutic writing, where you just write and you get the junk out, you vomit it out of your head, kind of a thing. The next thing is we are going to, there are various types of nonfiction writing: memoir, family history, personal communication such as letters, cards, emails, texts, poetry, essay, how-to articles, freelance report journalism, and we just talked about journaling. And there's also speech, like sacrament talks. And then there's fiction, and fiction can be broken into genres, such as there's general genres such as picture books, short story. There's specific genres such as speculative fiction, fantasies, Western, women's fiction, thriller. There's so many different categories. There's also script writing is another genre. There's film, playwriting, music, and then we get to so that was types of creative writing, and next is tools. So tools, you have structure, format, the whole work, and what is an arc, and then research. And research, many of you learned about, but if you have any questions on that, you can give me a call. And resources. So that's what I'm going to address right now is the resources. So one of the resources I wanted to address is prayer. So oftentimes we forget when we are doing, whether it's just writing a journal entry or doing family history, or if we're doing a more academic work, to go to the Lord in prayer and ask for guidance and personal revelation and inspiration. And one of the things that really stood out to me in a book it was by Debbie McCumber, who is a very famous romance writer. She's written, I don't know how many books, but she wrote a nonfiction book called Knit Together. And I didn't realize that she was such a religious person. And she talks about how important it is to start our day with prayer and feasting on the Word. So I just thought, yeah, I need to add that to my writing curriculum, that prayer and feasting on the Word. So asking in faith, pray over your creative works, ponder their purpose, thank Heavenly Father in Jesus' name for all the inspiration, flow, and flourish, and then trust Him. So those are very important things. There are all kinds of resources. And I mentioned prayer, and I want to mention another tool besides resources is something called Spark Joy. If anybody has ever read Marie Kondo's book Spark Joy, it's a certain way of organizing your home, but it is also a plan of organizing your life. So I had to do a purge. I had kept almost every bit of writing that I had since I was 10, and hadn't let go of it. And when I was going through my, initial Marie Kondo, okay, I'm going to start organizing just like she said in the order, I got to my writing, and I wasn't going to touch my writing. How can I purge that, But to think, some of that stuff that had been sitting there for decades and let it go, to let go of all the shoulds, all the should have done this, should have done that. And it was really liberating to think it, to feel the gratitude that I did this a long time ago, and it was a great inspiration then. It is not contributing to any of my present projects, and it may not contribute to any of my future projects other than the practice that I had at that time. So it was easier for me to let a lot of it go, and I'm grateful for that. I have a motto: mess is stress. So this is my perspective. So everybody has to organize their life in their own perspective. So whether you're purging projects, I also did this with fabric. I let go of a lot of fabric. And that's saying something for me, because I grew up, my grandmother was, you save everything, and my mom was, you save everything. except when it starts to clutter. But, sometimes people become hoarders in their later years, and I don't want to be that way. So anyway, it was very liberating to thank and express gratitude to these things that have been sitting and taking up space, and to let them go and to just feel so much better. And you create space to create. So the next tool is concrete things. Using a pen or pencil helps you retain more information in memory. The act of writing personal letters, notes, and cards has been shown to boost the writer and receiver's mental well-being over a text, email, or typed letter. So making sure, I've started to practice that when I send an email to someone or return an email, the first time, sometimes you have multiple returns, and after that I don't do hello or hi or whatever, because it's not really appropriate usually to do dear so-and-so like a letter, or regards or whatever. It's, to do a greeting, say hello, Karen, glad to hear from you, blah, 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 just trying to be more personal, and that helps boost your well-being. Who knew? Little thing like that, saying hello in your email, is going to give you a little boost of joy, of happiness, something positive. Okay. And remember that sometimes a phone call is much more meaningful and well understood than a text. Sometimes a text is the perfect thing, but sometimes, many times, a phone call is the best. We're going to talk about the creative process next. So the creative process, you have creativity. So you're going to developing the great idea. So we have drafts. All writers go through drafts, no matter what it is, whether it's a sacrament meeting talk or you're writing a personal history. You're going to go through drafts. So there's this Irish fairy tale about a cowboy, and he had been a prince, and he had multiple older brothers or something like that, so he wasn't going to inherit anything, and so he went out to find his way in the world, and he found this other kingdom, and he's got a job as a cowboy, which meant he was tending the cows. And so there was the king of the castle said, anyone who brings me such and such will win the hand of my daughter, the princess, and be the future king. So the cowboy set out, and different adventures, and this is sort of Cinderella in reverse. So he comes upon this giantess, and her father actually has the item that he needs to get, and she says she will help him get it, but in order to do so, he has to kill her, cut her open, take out her bones, line her bones up against this tree, use them as a ladder to climb the tree, to get over the fence, and go retrieve what it was, and then come back, and he has to put her back together exactly how he pulled her apart. And if he does this, he puts her back together in order. Bones, muscle, tissue, or, everything in order, then she will be back to life, and he will be rewarded or whatever. So he puts her back together, but he forgets her little toe on one of her feet. So he goes back, he wins the hand of the princess, but the giantess shows up at the ceremony where, he's going to be awarded the princess's hand. Hopefully Oliver with the hand, not just the hand. But he makes the choice to choose the giantess as his bride because of the mistake that he made and that she made the sacrifice to help him to achieve his goal. Something like that. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of parts. Your writing is not your baby. It's not your child. It's not something for you to raise. It's something for you to care for. So I have business cards. So if you're doing writing as a profession or something, think of it as a profession. But my business cards say creative nurturer and creative writing consultant, creative nurturing consultant, things like that. There's let's see. Oh, inspiration is not. So we need to read. It's really important to read both fiction and nonfiction as a part of this creative process and putting your drafts together to make sure you get all the parts in the right place. You need to have time for stillness. It looks different for each of us. And prayer and trust, as we talked about before. Environment. So the next part of the creative process I want to talk about is your environment. So music. A lot of writers create a playlist. I like to just listen to a radio station or a whole disc. I'm weird that way. I don't have a playlist. I've thought about putting together a playlist, but I just like, I feel like big band today, so I'm going to listen to that. Or I feel like Celtic music today because I write a lot of fairy tale, fantasy fiction kind of things. And so writing, I feel like country today, so I'm going to listen to country or, whatever. I feel like Mormon Tab today. So you just create your music environment. Temperature. You don't want to be too hot or too cold. You want to be comfortable. So making sure that your writing space is comfortable. And Elizabeth Gilbert, who is a writer, she encourages travel as a part of your environment because in your travels that you experience different things. And in the beginning of her career, she did not expect her writing to support her. She always believed she would support her writing. So she worked as a waitress, she saved up, she would go on trips and experience things and then write about them. And she spent years just writing and then trying to send things off to little magazines or journals or whatever, and various essays and so forth. So she had 4 books published and many articles before she got to Eat, Pray, Love. So nobody heard about her really before then. But she kept on with the process. So, she was working at it for more than a decade of doing this process of working hard, earning the money, going on a trip, writing something, trying to get published, whether it was an article or a book. But she'd still keep working. So she had a day job, or a night job. If she was a waitress, she might have been working evenings. And so she wrote around her work that supported. So she supported her inspiration, her writing, not as if it were a child, but it was something for her to invest in. Do not do creative or healing work in the bedroom. That needs to be your piece of rest. It needs to be your rest space. On occasion, you're going to write down ideas. Some people record things on their phone. A lot of writers or researchers or anyone who does any kind of writing may record on their phone. It's not my preference. I usually have like a notebook or something nearby, but not next to my bed because that just Mess is stress. And if you have too many things on your nightstand, that's what it is for me. So I don't do that. Let's see, the creative self-care. So we go down to the self-care of creative process and dress for work. Dress up for work. Don't live in your sweatpants. Even if you're just doing family scrapbooking, put on something a little more appropriate. Don't stay in your yoga pants all day. Put on a skirt and a t-shirt. Something a little bit more, because you dress for success. Fitness. Make sure you're not letting go of fitness. It's very important. A lot of riders will go for walks in order to unblock their thinking. You need fresh air in nature. Nutrition is important because you need to take care of your body. That takes care of your mind, and that helps you to do better. And faith practice. It is as important as any other hygiene. You need to daily faith practice. Scripture, feast on the word, prayer, pondering, meditation, and mental hygiene. Okay, this may include a healthcare professional. This may include, I have apps on my phone for like Headspace and the tapping solution to do different kinds of meditations and to help me with opening. It helps you create space. It helps you create space in your life. That's basically what that is for. Under the next category is livelihood. So many people think about writing as a career or a livelihood. And I'm just going to go through these very quickly. If you hope, expect, fantasize that your art creativity will support you. 1, it's possible. 2, that's a lot of pressure on your art. Anxiety and stress can be motivators in healthy amounts. They can also be overplayed and disruptors. Learning relaxation tools like meditation are useful in creating flow. Elizabeth Gilbert talked about this, and I shared with you how she worked to support her art. She treats her creativity art as a living entity she cares for, but it's not her baby. So that's what I'm saying. You got to separate that. This isn't your child that you're raising. This is it can be treated like an entity, your art, your creativity, but it's not a kid. Several writers, artists treat their art as a job as far as investing time, and then they have a full-time employment or job to pay the bills. Debbie McCumber is a housewife mother, and she wrote while the kids were at school. And Madeline L'Engle, who is one of my favorite authors, she was a theater understudy on Broadway. She is an actress. Those were her day job, or her night job, really. And she wrote during the day. And then she was also a housewife and mother. And she wrote while the kids were in school during about a decade where they lived on a farm nonstop. And then they went back to New York. And her husband worked theater. And so, yeah, somebody did it. I just want to know, when did they clean the house? When did they clean the house? When did they do the laundry? I look at their schedule and how they did it and how they got published, and I just want to know, when do they clean the house? Just saying. For me, writing is my happy place. If I can be outdoors and write in a day, I have a tremendous well-being boost. And these two things fuel my soul and create well-being. I'm going to talk about words. It's another aspect of the writing process. It's so important to read. It's so important to read. The word. It's so important to read our scriptures, to hunger and thirst, to feast on them, to think about them. There's the power of words, if you want to look at Jacob 4:9. And words just have so much power. Jesus created the world with words. With the word. Okay? He was known as the Word. Believe that words we say make it happen. Think of our divine spark. When we say I can't, that's what we create. I think I can, that's what we create. This is another thing on words. Louise Hay was a spiritual healing teacher. She believed that words we said to ourselves and others had power. When we observe our pains and suffering and weakness without judgment, and then replace or add positive affirmation, we rewire our brain's neural connections. Just something to think about. We can change our brain, we can change how we think, just by the words we think, the words we say. Another thing I want to share is, so I just started listening to audiobooks, and there was a book that I had wanted to read. Now, I've read a lot of different books, and sometimes there's profanity in them, and usually when I'm reading a hard copy book, I just skim over it. I've learned to do that. Don't really see it, just jump over it. But when you're listening to an audiobook, you can't jump over it. It just comes at you, and boom, it's there in your head. So I was listening to this book, and all of a sudden this word came up. To me, it was completely inappropriate, didn't even need to be there, and it ruined. The book sounded so interesting, and it was fascinating, and all of a sudden, boom, here's this word. I turned it off. It totally turned me off from wanting to read the rest of the book. I wasn't interested in the story anymore. First of all, I don't think that word was even used in the time period that this book was taking place in, ancient Greece. Don't think that word was there. Don't think it existed. So, to me, words damage. The words that damage, it's not like, think of Scrabble where you have a blank space. A lot of people, I'm just going to say the F word. People use that like it's a Scrabble blank space, and that they can just use it as any adjective, adverb, verb, noun. And it's inappropriately used that way. But it's just, think of the words affected and infected. Okay? How does it affect you? Does it infect you? So, words. There you go. I want to talk to you about a purpose statement. So, as a writer, whether you're just doing family history, or personal therapy or whatever for your writing, having a purpose statement. So here's my purpose statement I'm going to share with you. The purpose of a peacemaker is an umbrella that includes compassion, creativity, nurturing, teaching, loving, unconditionally, flourishing, playing, meditating, and living truth. I fulfill this purpose through my gifts, creating and inspiring peace through my stories, nurturing work and service. Even my self-care is an example of peacemaking. It takes practice to be peaceful within and radiate peace without. So, also speaking of words, let's talk about reframe. I can't, I have no choice, bad luck. What does that bring? We are a peculiar people. We are a peculiar people. Ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me. Purify unto himself a royal priesthood and a holy nation, that ye might be a choice and a favored people, a light unto the Gentiles, accounted as the salt of the earth. Shine forth, that thy light may be a standard. How do we apply our peculiarness or shine our light in our artistic and creative actions? It can be a part of any of our paid employment. You can incorporate these writing skills or these writing tools or this reframe in any job that you have, paid or unpaid. As a part of your ministering, you can apply this peculiarness or shine your light the words you speak, right? In your ministering, as a part of homemaking, as a part of your wellness practice, as a part of your spiritual practice. Now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about positive psychology and how that has applied to me in my writing journey. I love positive psychology. When I first was introduced to it, I was just like, this is the best thing ever. Like chocolate cake with raspberry sauce. Okay, positive psychology is the study of the good life, or the positive aspects of the human experience that make life worth living. As an art, it focuses on both individual and societal well-being. It's from Wikipedia. Science of happiness, flourishing, and flow. That's what it's a science. It's a study. It's research. So one of the first places I recommend you all go to is VIA Strength or VICharacter.org, and you take the strengths quiz. And when you take the strengths quiz, you write it down, or you can do a printout, and you get to see that all of these strengths, they rate them in order. But you learn that the strengths at the bottom aren't your weaknesses. They're potential strengths. They're lesser strengths. And that's one thing you get to learn about yourself. You really don't. Weaknesses are really just lesser and potential strengths. When the Lord says He will take your weaknesses and make them strengths, He means it. But you have to think it. So hopefully that will help. I would challenge each of you to discover your strengths and apply them to your work, your play, and your rest. And I hope that whatever way you want to use writing in your life, that it will enhance it and flourish it, and may it bless you. Thank you. Bye.